Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Welcome, Wendy. Hi, Angela, Andrea, Amelia, Amy. Happy New Year. Does anybody still remember that it's a new year? Or has that energy already passed? I think it can go pretty quickly. I got a bad haircut, or what my mind is calling a bad haircut, is judging as a bad haircut. I get to relax and release on that. And it's definitely very low hanging fruit, but I'm just noticing it right now. Good morning, Sharon. I'm excited to be here with you all today, this morning. And I will be here with you in 24 hours for a regularly scheduled SML, Sunday morning live. Yes. So I'm going to pull a Mickey card from his book, The Untethered Soul. Hi, Ree. Welcome back. Nice to see you. Let's see what Michael Singer has to say for us this morning as we dive in. And I'm super excited about what we're doing today. I'm glad you are all here. And before we dive further, let's see. So this is quotes from The Untethered Soul. This one is about awakening consciousness. I got this card the other day, so, it's interesting when you get a new deck, or when I get a new deck. I don't typically go through and look at every single card. I just start using it. So I don't even know all these quotes yet. I mean, I haven't seen all of these cards at all, and yet here's one that I've already seen. So it's interesting how messages that are important, will repeat themselves. So this one is important. If you go very deep, that is where you live. You live in the seat of consciousness. A true spiritual being lives there without effort and without intent. So this is a perfect message for what we're going to do today and moving forward, which is we're going to be studying a body of work that's known as the Way of Mastery. And really, this quote points to exactly the journey that we're taking with this, studying this new material about living in the seat of consciousness, and cultivating that seat. So, love it. So we'll just take a few minutes for people to continue to join in. If anybody is new to me, please let me know if you like. I'm Natalie. I'm a spiritual life coach and Reiki Master Teacher. And I have been a spiritual life coach for 4 years now. And if you're on my newsletter email list, you saw the New Year's email I sent a day or two ago sharing about how I became a spiritual life coach. And I became a Reiki Master Teacher as a result of my Insight Timer teacher journey. I was already a Reiki level 1 and 2 when I started. And through doing Reiki here in the live streams and the power of it and how it awakened my intuition even more, I became a Reiki Master Teacher. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Please check my profile here, listen to my meditations, experience those. I have some free and premium tracks. I also do ancestral clearing, which is a powerful process that actually I've been doing that now for 3 years. And it's changed the way that I do my energy healing. It's very powerful. And I do that here in our live sessions as well in a modified way, having a one-on-one with me doing the Reiki and ancestral clearing. Yeah, it's a different experience. And also when we do it here in the group, it's powerful. So I have different offerings. You can check my website. Follow me here, please. Give a donation if you'd like. Thank you for the donations that have come in recently, as always. And oh yeah, I am uploading this on YouTube. I'm not double live streaming right now because, yeah, the service is iffy here. So I have all of my lives as video replays on my YouTube channel. So follow me there. I just need 2 more followers to get 500 on YouTube. So if you want to be one of those, that would be appreciated. It's a milestone. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram and check my website as well. And reach out if you feel called to connect one-on-one. I have a few spots open for life coaching. I am starting a school. I've enrolled in a school. That's why I'm living here in Mexico, for those who follow me. So I can be in the same time zones as my school, and it starts in a few weeks, 2 weeks. And yeah, I'm going to be filling up fast. So yeah, reach out if you feel called. Excuse me. So, the way of mastery, the way of the heart. I'm really excited to bring this to you, and this is totally new for me to do. So, yeah, I'm just excited to see what Source, Higher Power, God will be doing here with us today. So I will open this, the main part of the session with a question for you all. Has anybody heard of the Way of Mastery and or the Way of the Heart? I'll just ask that because it's not a super well-known teaching. Going once, going twice. Okay, so one person does not know it. Ooh, okay, I want to check that out, Andrea, because for me, this teaching sort of exists in a vacuum as far as I just study it myself, and I don't even know anybody else that does, so I'll check that teacher out. Awesome, thank you for that. So how I found this was 4 years ago when I started life coaching. I had a coaching session with a very powerful coach that I admire. And he shared the Way of Mastery with me. I may have heard of it randomly, but I didn't really know anything about it. So he shared it with me, and that's where it started. And I didn't jump in immediately and get on board with it, but that's where the seed was planted. And then somewhere along the line, along the years, I started getting more into it. The way that I have experienced it is by listening to the original recordings of it on YouTube. So I can share those with you. I can share a website with you where it's written so you can experience it in either form, whatever works best. So, how many of you have heard of A Course in Miracles? I know there's going to be a lot more people that say yes. Yeah. A Course in Miracles is very famous, very popular. And so that teaching, this way of mastery teaching, is maybe an offshoot or a branch or something like that with A Course in Miracles. So for me, I found the Course in Miracles hard to access, as far as like understanding and yeah. Who does not know A Course in Miracles? Let me also say that. Because if you don't know A Course in Miracles, then I need to also just create what that is for you as well. Going once, going twice. I'll just assume that there's one person out there that does not know A Course in Miracles. So, A Course in Miracles is a philosophy, a teaching system that is very powerful and very lengthy and very comprehensive and complete. It's made up of 3 books or bodies of teaching that are very long and very detailed. And so there is a workbook for the Course in Miracles that gives a lesson every day, 365 lessons. And that is like the best way to break that down into bite-sized pieces. So I have done that. I did that every day for a year, a number of years ago. So, and the way A Course in Miracles came was it was channeled teachings. So, A Course in Miracles is a body of channeled writings, and it uses the language of Christianity. It talks about the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, Christ, Jesus, the Son of God. It uses a lot of terms like that. And yet it is not the traditional way in which we know those terms. It is not religious. It's not dogmatic. And also that's the language of the teachings. So that can put some people off, but it's not religious. It just uses those terminology as like concepts and analogies. So, and it was channeled, and it's a very interesting story. So if you want to learn more about it, you can. But that is like, to me, that preceded the Way of Mastery, which is what we're doing. And there's tons of teachings and things on Course in Miracles. Marianne Williamson, I know, I'm sure many of you, if not most of you, know of her. She discovered A Course in Miracles in the 70s, and that's how she got her, awakening and then her start as a teacher. And so, yeah, she's probably the most famous person I know that teaches it. So, yeah. So that's a bit about A Course in Miracles. Now we're going to talk about the Way of Mastery. Hi, J.E. Yes, it can definitely be perceived because it uses that language in those traditional ways. And yet, it reminds me of, there's a book by Emmett Fox called Sermon on the Mount, which is like a spiritual discourse on the Sermon on the Mount in the Bible, but it's completely different, but yet it uses, that frame to teach. So it requires open-mindedness, to take the lessons and let them in. Yeah, so the Way of Mastery is a channeled teaching. I'm not going to go into the whole story of how that began, but there's a man, an American man in the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, somewhere in there, and that's a whole process of how he began to do this. But he channeled these teachings. So the teachings came in the form of his channeling verbally to a group of people over 3 years, once a month. He had these gatherings and had an hour-long talk. Year 1 is called the Way of the Heart. Year 2 is called the Way of Transformation. Year 3 is called the Way of Knowing. Those 3 together are known as the Way of Mastery. And it's about awakening from suffering. It's about awakening to your true nature. It's about enlightenment. It's about knowing who you truly are. It's about mastering yourself, mastering this human experience. So I am going to read the teaching. So I'm really setting this up because it reads as a dialogue in a way, sort of like conversations with God, but not really. So I want you all to imagine, it's this man speaking to a group, and that will help because it takes a little while, it could, to understand the languaging a bit. And also my invitation to you is that you just be present with it, and the concepts will land that are meant for you right now. This is a teaching. I have listened to these just like conversations with God over and over and over and over and over, because it's that profound and deep. So the other interesting part about this teaching and this message is that the being channeled is the man that was Jesus. So take that on. His name when he was living as a human on the planet was Jeshua ben Joseph. So Jeshua ben Joseph is being channeled through this person. So he talks about his life as Jesus. He talks about being crucified. So it's very interesting. So I just invite you to, be open to this. Trust you're finding it at the right time. The messages are very powerful and profound and life-changing. And if you want to awaken, and if you found this, if it's right now, if it's, on my replays later or whenever, trust. It doesn't matter your belief system. You don't even have to believe any of it. You don't have to believe anything I've said. But Listen with your heart to the message. Hi, Elena. Welcome. So the teachings are that it's being channeled. Jeshua ben Joseph is speaking and giving these teachings that will and can change your life and awaken you from the illusion of separation, the illusion of suffering, or not the illusion of suffering, but the illusion that causes suffering. So I am going to read. So you're just in time, Elena. I have set up and explained what we're doing here, so just trust and receive, and anyone else that's joining in. Does anybody have any questions? So just briefly, I'm going to be reading this Way of Mastery teachings. But yeah, since it's our first time, and it does require a bit of like explanation. You know, I may change the way I do it. I'm just going with my highest excitement here with this teaching. As I said, it's changing me, it's changing my life. It's awakening me. It's very powerful. So, what's interesting about it, and I totally believe that it is Jeshua ben Joseph being channeled. And if you listen to the recording, the original recording, he never once says, but, you know, like there is nothing but the words that you hear, like, it's really amazing. There's no pause, like, it's just, yeah. So, sometimes when he's channeling, he references the man that is the channel too, so that might be a little confusing. He calls him this my beloved brother, which is the man channeling. And there's some other things, but just take this in. Listen with your heart. Have an open mind. And just be curious. Be curious and interested to see what lands. So, as I said, in the original channeling, he gave one talk a month for 1 hour, like 1 hour a month for 12 months. So basically 12 hours was the Way of the Heart teaching, and then year 2, and then year 3. So it's like 3 different teachings. And he gives practices, meditations, concepts for us to, awaken and master this human experience. So, any other questions before we get started? Okay. Now we begin. And indeed, once again, greetings unto you, beloved and holy friends. I come forth in this hour yet again to abide with you where you believe yourself to be. For in truth, if it were not for the fact that you are choosing to turn your attention to the world of physicality through the vehicle of the body, our communication would not require the device of what you might call channeling, nor the devices of the technologies of this world, in which to record and capture spoken words that are themselves but the reflection of what the words would point your mind toward. Therefore, beloved friends, I come not for myself, but for you. I come not to teach you, but to love you, until you choose from the depth within your own being to set aside every illusion you've ever given credence to, and to remember the truth, which alone is true. For indeed in that hour there is a transcendence of all that knows limitation. There is a transcendence of all that knows coming and going, birth and death. There is but the mind of Christ within which each of us, as a spark of divine light, as a sunbeam to the sun, rests eternally in perfect communion and communication always. Now, of course, the great secret is that is the state of your reality, that in each and every moment you abide in perfect communion with the whole of creation, since all things are but temporary modifications of the one fundamental energy, which I've chosen to call the Christ mind, the offspring of the Father. And so, beloved friends, I come to where you choose to be. And if you would choose to open that place within the heart and within the mind in which you can communicate with me directly, I will meet you there as well. What is important then, by way of our beginning, is to consider the simple fact that your experience is always the effect of where you choose to focus the attention of your consciousness, itself being unlimited forever, embracing all the many dimensions of creation. You abide in that which embraces all things in all ways and at all times. And in truth, you do not know separation, birth or death, gain or loss. In this hour, as you have taken the tape from its envelope and put it into your machinery, recognize how you, as an infinite being, have deliberately chosen to participate in a form of experience. You have therefore called to yourself the sensory apparatus of the body through which to filter the energies of this physical domain, that you might hear vibrations against vocal cords that create words that carry certain meanings for each and every one of you. And each and every one of you will color that meaning according to the perceptions that you have chosen to place value upon. So you can see how the teaching's transmitted and get a bit of a sense of it. So what it's saying here is, so basically the teachings were recorded. So he's talking about taking the tape and putting it in the machine because this was a long time ago. And it's saying that you are deliberately choosing to be here, that you are deliberately choosing this human experience and choosing to be in this body. And that this body has, the way that it's like, it's a communication device. We can hear things, we can see things, we can sense things, we can feel things. And then it says, you will color the meaning of this message according to the perceptions that you've chosen to place value upon. So however you are receiving this is coming through the filter of your perception. And really, it's about changing our perception. And as A Course in Miracles says, a miracle is a shift in perception. So this is really what also this teaching is here to do, is to create shifts in our perception. So does this mean that some are ahead and some behind? It only seems that way. In reality, each of you is equal. Each of you choosing from your infinite freedom to attract to yourself certain vibrational frequencies, if you will, certain forms or qualities of experience. That freedom is what you abide in always, from before the foundations of this world and long after this world ceases to be. In each and every moment, then, you cannot be a victim of what you see, and nothing is outside of you. What you experience, you have directly and deliberately called to yourself. And if you hold the thought that, well, I don't like what I've called to myself, that's perfectly okay too. For then you've called to yourself the experience of being in judgment of yourself. So I want to pause on that, because really this is the most important axiom to get. Like really, period. To awaken, it says, in each and every moment, you cannot be a victim of what you see, and nothing is outside of you. What you experience, you've directly and deliberately called to yourself. So the way of mastery in this journey is about total responsibility, which goes against most of our human perceptions. And we hear this, you're the creator of your own reality. But this is really what that means. Because when we awaken to that truth, like in our heart, not just intellectually or as a concept, it's total freedom and total responsibility. It's total empowerment. But when we're in the awakening journey, it can feel like bullshit and like, fuck that. And like, that's not true. And how is that true? So that's what this journey is about, is awakening to that. And this teaching is going to reiterate that many times. So it's here right now in the first few minutes. And there's a part of my mind that's still like, how can that be? How did I create that experience in my life? I didn't want that. It seemed like it just happened to me, that I'm a victim to it. And this challenges that. So this, can be challenging and be very freeing. So just meet yourself where you are and just be curious. You don't have to believe all this. You don't have to believe any of it. And also, you've created hearing this, so you're ready to hear it. Hi, Christine. Yeah, that's a great question. So let me read that part again, because, I love that you picked up on that. I'm just reading back over this paragraph. In each and every moment, then, you cannot be a victim of what you see, and nothing is outside of you. What you experience, you've directly and deliberately called to yourself. And if you hold the thought that, well, I don't like what I've called to myself, that's perfectly okay too, for then you've called to yourself the experience of being in judgment of yourself. Well, liking and not liking, Christine, is a preference. So judging something as good or bad, right or wrong, having a judgment of, I don't like this experience. The not liking's a judgment. Hi, Rose. So it's a book. It's put into book form, and it's a channeled teaching. So please rewatch the replay on YouTube, because I give a very detailed explanation of it, and that's okay if if you're just joining. But it's called The Way of the Heart. J.E., I hear you. I get that. And from this teaching and this philosophy, it says that we all create our own reality and that we don't know the mystery, in this human form of how and why all of these things are occurring, and it will explain that. Yes. And this pathway, Christine, too, is about dropping the judgment. Hi, Nancy. So, for then you have called to yourself the experience of being in judgment of yourself. Merely look with the wonder of a child and see what it feels like, and ask yourself, is this an energy I wish to continue in, or would I choose something else? Is this an energy I wish to continue in, or would I choose something else? So even if you're in dislike about an experience, this is a way to freedom. Is this an energy I wish to continue, or would I choose something else? Even judging anything in the world, be it war zones or famine or all of those very, challenging things to not judge. Is this an energy I wish to continue in, or would I choose something else? Because this is all about personal empowerment and mastery. And waking up to the fact that we are all deliberate creators, and we are all creators of our own reality. For ultimately, when all possible choices within the dream of separation have been made, have been tasted, have been felt, have been known, then finally there emerges the still, quiet voice of spirit that speaks through the soul, whispering of the one truth and the one reality, the one love, the one peace, the one bliss that is continual. Then the soul begins to turn from the things of this created world. It begins to withdraw its attention, as it were, from its attachments to all of the things it's called to itself. It begins to transcend its sense of identification with the vibrational frequencies it had only meant to play with and then took seriously. For it is seriousness within the mind which is the creation of ego, and it is great seriousness that holds the vibrations of what you would no longer experience within the field of your being, within the field of your soul. Rose, this is a great question. Yes, and the teaching does address that exact question. So along with what I'm reading now, which is just the channeled teaching, there's question and answers. So people bring questions, and this question is specifically answered, and I have a sense of it, and I can try and answer it. And also, it's such a big question. I mean, it's the question, like J.E. said, famine, war zones, tragedies, innocent children, things happening, whatever, that stuff is all addressed. And I feel, this will give an answer. For me to give my understanding of a simple answer is that we all came in as deliberate creators. It even talks about choosing you choose your parents, and that you choose your experiences. So very simply, that's the simple answer I would give. So it's a great question, and it's great because this is already touching up against hitting the buttons of the deepest questions and issues that humans have. Why do bad things happen to good people? So when we consider that we are infinite eternal beings, that we are infinitely powerful creators, that we chose this, then it's a challenging question. I didn't choose this fucking thing, like blah blah blah. And what I love about this teaching, it's the same, like Conversations with God says the same thing with its own words. A Course in Miracles, same thing. Like Abraham Hicks, it all fits. There's no contradictions. So and really too, and even like non-duality in Vedanta, I'm thinking about Rupert Spira, Muji, Ramana Maharshi, even those, like the Hindu teachings fit in with this as well. And what this last paragraph I read says is in Michael Singer's work is the same. We've got to come in. And that's what this last paragraph said, is like releasing the outer world and coming into the heart, in that the experience in the heart in every moment and how we work with that is the most important thing. Great question, Amy. I mean, I don't have an exact answer that's coming that's black and white from the teachings that I know and from this. I would say we chose the event to have the lesson. And then that also brings in the question of time and, free will and predestiny, or like, did I choose this event because I knew that this thing would happen? And this is such a a bigger question of time, and we've talked about that before in Convos with God, about linear time and then the true nature of time. So woo, I love it. I love that these questions are coming. Keep asking. And let this teaching just do its work with you, just like all of them. And just be with it, with the mind of a child. This talks about a lot, that we must cultivate the innocence of a child. to have a freedom from suffering. And as you, as the soul, the individual divine spark, begins to choose to withdraw the attention, to withdraw the value you've placed upon all things, and as you learn to simplify the nature of your own consciousness, as you begin to realize that you can surrender into something that seems beyond you, that you can entertain the insane thought of trusting the invisible, you come more and more to be less and less. And as you become less and less of what you thought you were, conversely, you become more and more of what your Father created you to be, the thought of perfect love and form. The thought of perfect love and form, a channel, a simple vehicle through which that love of spirit can shine forth. And your only task becomes the cleaning of your windows, the polishing of your floors, the weeding of your garden, so that the light can pour forth unimpeded. So it's really talking about this perception and this identification with the ego that, is like dirtying the windows, right? So it's talking about polishing and cleaning the windows so that we have that clear vision, unimpeded by judgments. And it talks, just like Course in Miracles, it talks about like in the insane mad idea, like the believing the insane thoughts of the mind and the ego, that there is separation. And if you did join in late, I did say that this uses languaging like in traditional Christianity, Father, Christ, stuff like that. Please just allow those words to move through you. And if you do have energy around it, just release that and take the essence of the message. Exactly, Rose. Yes. Really, it's a journey back to innocence. And I see this more and more as I'm living this. Right now I'm in Mexico, as y'all know, and if you follow me on social media, which you can if you choose, I post on my stories. And yesterday I posted I was in the plaza with the church that's amazing here. And I just sit in that plaza for hours and I just observe. I'm just basically being present and enjoying and observing people watching, if you will. And I love watching children. I just delight in it. Because, and I talk about this a lot, their presence, their innocence. And this teaching, Way of Heart, the Way of Mastery, it talks about it often. We get to cultivate seeing life with the innocence of a child. And just remember back to being a child, or if you have children, and the child observes, the child witnesses, the child is present, the child is without past. I mean, pretty much. No longer will you find the need to defend perceptions you had identified with in error. No longer will you find the need to defend perceptions you had identified with in error. Course in Miracles says, the ego is always either in attack or defense. So if your mind is in attack or in defense, you are in insanity because you're not in the truth, you're not in reality, you are identified with the ego, the egoic mind, which is an illusion and which is not real. No longer will you find the need to defend perceptions you had identified with in error. And you will indeed know when you have come to that state of awakening, for you will be able to look upon all created things that you've ever experienced, all reactions you've ever held within the mind, all perceptions, all judgments, all desires that you've ever held for anyone or anything, and as they arise in your mind, they will not disturb your peace, and you will smile. And you will see that within your consciousness has arisen all saintlyhood and all devilishness. Yeah. You have been both saint and sinner, and your happiness and your unhappiness has been merely an effect of where you would choose to place your attention. Your happiness and your unhappiness has been merely effect of where you would choose to place your attention. I mean, we can describe this in psychological terms. I just saw a meme on Insta about cognitive bias. You know, basically what you expect to see, you will. If you expect oh, this always happens to me. Oh, I always get stopped at this red light. Or, oh, I always get pulled over. Or, oh, I always get into the long line at the grocery. And then it happens again, and then your mind validates that, and then it happens it happens again. If you choose to place your awareness and your attention on, oh, I'm a lucky person. I've read a book, I forgot the name of it, but it's by Gay Hendricks. It's something about being lucky. And it's like lucky people perceive themselves as being lucky. So they create more luck, and then they see more places where they opportunities to create that or to have that. And I feel like I'm a lucky person. So it all fits. Paying your attention. Where do you pay your attention to? Really, that's the most valuable currency. Our most valuable currency is where we pay our attention to. And this is saying you can withdraw your attention from things that are not pleasing or do not create peace. You can place your attention. That's your power. And Joe Dispenza says, where you place your attention is where you place your energy. So do you, and even think about relationships or jobs or anything, do you want to place your attention onto that? Where do you want to pay your attention to? Your happiness and your unhappiness has been merely an effect of where you would choose to place your attention. There's people in this plaza, often, and yesterday, people in wheelchairs, old people hobbling, poor people begging for money, children, dirty children, selling little trinkets when they're really just veiled beggars, and then the moms are forcing them to go up to you and, feel sorry for them and buy the little thing, And there's also people proposing. I think there was a marriage proposal that happened on the bench next to me, but it was done very low key. I looked over and the guy was kneeling and putting a ring on, and, and then actually then the day before there was another proposal on the steps and everybody was watching and clapping. Life is happening. My perception and how I choose to paint all of those things is what I'm going to see. There was this super cute guy yesterday. He was wheeled up in a wheelchair, and they put him in the sun. He was young, And I just, whatever, they put him like right in front of me basically. And I just was observing, and he had like a catheter bag, on his leg. And as I was witnessing, I was like, "Oh my God, he's paralyzed." I mean, he was in his 20s and he had tattoos, and then I was like, "Oh, well, but he can move his arms." But I noticed he could not use his hands. And then, he's with his family, and they were feeding him. He could not even feed himself. And so I noticed all the different perceptions and stories and judgments that my mind made up about this person. Like, wow, how did he get there? Like, first I thought it must have been an accident, something. And then I thought, well, maybe he has some like cerebral palsy thing, like he was born with maybe he was born this way. But then I was like, no, it's probably something. And then my mind went into feeling sorry for him, and then the judgment went to, well, I don't know why he chose this experience. If I'm coming from these teachings that we all create our own reality from that view, he chose this experience, and I don't know why. And I can feel compassion. I felt so much loving compassion for him, and almost even like a respect of like, wow, you chose a really fucking hard lesson. I don't want that one. But I had respect for his soul, and also an innocence of, I don't know the mysteries of what had him end up there, both like in the three-dimensional world of the actual events, or in the multi-dimensional eternal world of why his soul chose to have that experience. I am not God. So I noticed all of these perceptions and stories and judgments floating by. And this is the awakening journey. Because say, whatever, X number of years ago, I would see him in the wheelchair, and I would just, what would I think? I might have just been like, I might have even not wanted to look at him. I might have even wanted to, like, it would have made me uncomfortable or something, and I would have just wanted to look away or put my attention elsewhere. Or I would have, then, or felt sorry for him, like sympathy, and like, oh, he's so helpless. Or like, oh, what happened? He's so young. What a tragedy that he's so young and this could happen, which is another compelling story. So that all came up, but then, as I'm in this journey of awakening, there is a seat of consciousness that sees all of this and is learning and practicing not identifying with all of those stories, of just noticing. As the Michael Singer quote says, we live in the seat of consciousness. That seat witnesses and observes. A true spiritual being lives there without effort and without intent. There's no intent of anything, just being an observer. Oh, wow, Brooke, that's heavy. Wow. Yeah. And again, I mean, there can be deep compassion for her. And if we're looking with the innocence of a child and without judgment, it could be like, wow, like, I don't know. I don't know the mysteries of that. Yeah, depression is powerful, Brooke. And what depression is is thoughts believed. I mean, if we're looking spiritually here, that create a chemical reaction in the body. So thoughts are powerful. Michael Singer gives the example of will and willpower. And we, us humans, we think we don't have control over our thoughts, and like, our thoughts just come. And when we meditate, and I totally lose track in meditation, and blah, blah, blah. I can't remember, I keep losing my awareness. He argues with that story of like, you are the most powerful being on the planet. Like, humans have so much will. And he gives suicide as an example of how powerful our will is that humans overcome the survival instinct to kill themselves. Like, what a commitment. So that's how powerful we are. And that might be a bizarre example, but it's so true. That shows the power of will and intention. Christine, I'm so glad you're here. And I love how, and I always trust everything is as it should be as far as where I go in the teaching. And yeah, I love that you're here. Thank you for sharing that. And you're feeling more empowered. Yeah. And I mean, even with this beautiful human yesterday that I was being with, I was just like, you are a way more evolved being than me, that you would choose that experience. And then I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to choose it. I'm good. And then there's the idea that we've all been everybody. How many of you have read that story, The Egg? Actually, I might read it. This will be really helpful, and it goes along with the teachings. Yeah, I'm going to read it. That feels fun and exciting. Yeah, Misty, actually, I didn't have like a suicide point, but like you, I had a desperate point before I got clean and sober. I had like a suicide mission. Like I ran away and I wanted to die, and I took all these drastic actions, but I couldn't see myself actually doing it. So, wow, awesome, Misty. Okay, this is a great story if you don't know it, and if you do, pretend like you've never heard it before. You were on your way home when you died. It was a car accident. Nothing particularly remarkable, but fatal nonetheless. You left behind a wife and 2 children. It was a painless death. The EMTs tried their best to save you, but to no avail. Your body was so utterly shattered, you were better off, trust me. And that's when you met me. What happened? You asked. Where am I? You died, I said matter-of-factly. No point in mincing words. There was a truck and it was skidding. Yep, I said. I died? Yep. But don't feel bad about it. Everyone dies, I said. You looked around. There was nothingness. Just you and me. What is this place? You asked. Is this the afterlife? More or less, I said. Are you God? You asked. Yep, I replied, I'm God. My kids, my wife, you said. What about them? Will they be all right? That's what I like to see, I said. You just died and your main concern is for your family. That's good stuff right there. You looked at me with fascination. To you, I didn't look like God. I just looked like some man, or possibly a woman, some vague authority figure maybe, more of a grammar school teacher than the Almighty. Don't worry, I said, they'll be fine. Hold on. Don't worry, I said, they'll be fine. Your kids will remember you as perfect in every way. They didn't have time to grow contempt for you. Your wife will cry on the outside, but will be secretly relieved. To be fair, your marriage was falling apart. If it's any consolation, she'll feel very guilty for feeling relieved. Oh, you said, so what happens now? Do I go to heaven or hell or something? Neither, I said. You'll be reincarnated. Ah, you said, so the Hindus were right. All religions are right in their own way, I said. Walk with me. You followed along as we strode through the void. Where are we going? Nowhere in particular, I said. It's just nice to walk while we talk. So what's the point then, you asked? When I get reborn, I'll just be a blank slate, right? A baby. So all my experiences and everything I did in this life won't matter. Not so, I said. You have within you all the knowledge and experiences of all your past lives. You just don't remember them right now. I stopped walking and took you by the shoulders. Your soul is more magnificent, beautiful, and gigantic than you can possibly imagine. A human mind can only contain a tiny fraction of what you are. It's like sticking your finger in a glass of water to see if it's hot or cold. You put a tiny part of yourself into the vessel, and when you bring it back out, you've gained all the experiences it had. You've been in a human for the last 48 years, so you haven't stretched out yet and felt the rest of your immense consciousness. If we hung out here for long enough, you'd start remembering everything, but there's no point to doing that between each life. How many times have I been reincarnated then? Oh, lots and lots. And into lots of different lives, I said. This time around, you'll be a Chinese peasant girl in 540 AD. Wait, what? You stammered. You're sending me back in time? Well, I guess technically, time as you know it only exists in your universe. Things are different where I come from. Where you come from, you said? Oh, sure, I explained. I come from somewhere else. And there are others like me. I know you'll want to know what it's like there, but honestly, you wouldn't understand. Oh, you said, a little let down. But wait, if I get reincarnated to other places in time, I could have interacted with myself at some point. Sure, happens all the time. And with both lives, And with both lives only aware of their own lifespan, you don't even know it's happening. So what's the point of it all? Seriously? I asked. Seriously? You're asking me for the meaning of life? Isn't that a little stereotypical? Well, it's a reasonable question, you persisted. I looked you in the eye. The meaning of life, the reason I made this whole universe, is for you to mature. You mean mankind? You want us to mature? No, just you. I made this whole universe for you. With each new life, you grow and mature and become a larger and greater intellect. Just me? What about everyone else? There is no one else, I said. In this universe, there's just you and me. You stared blankly at me. But all the people on earth, all you, different incarnations of you. Wait, I'm everyone? Now you're getting it, I said with a congratulatory slap on the back. I'm every human being who ever lived, or who will ever live, yes. I'm Abraham Lincoln, and you're John Wilkes Booth too, I added. I'm Hitler, you said appalled. And you're the millions he killed. I'm Jesus, and you're everyone who followed him. You fell silent. Every time you victimize someone, I said, you are victimizing yourself. Every act of kindness you've done to yourself. Every happy and sad moment ever experienced by any human was or will be experienced by you. You thought for a long time. Why, you asked me, why do all this? Because someday you will become like me, because that's what you are. You're one of my kind. You're my child. Whoa, you said, incredulous. You mean I'm a god? No, not yet. You're a fetus. You're still growing. Once you've lived every human life throughout all time, you will have grown enough to be born. So the whole universe, you said, it's just an egg, I answered. Now it's time for you to move on to your next life, and I sent you on your way. What do y'all think of that story? Has anyone heard that before? So basically it's saying, you're the only one here. Yeah, it's very mind-blowing. You are the only one here. So basically you're reincarnating, and you've been everyone and you will be everyone, and so however you treat everyone is how you treat yourself. You've been Hitler, you've been the ones he killed, you've been Jesus, you've been the ones who nailed him to the cross, you've been the mother, you've been Gandhi, you've been Martin Luther King, you've been the Ku Klux Klan. Yeah, I mean, and this is all ideas that if they bring peace, you can take it on. If it doesn't, that's fine. There's no forcing, or I'm not trying to influence. I'm just sharing, I believe. Yeah. Hi, Tatiana. Hi, Abira, Cheryl, Heather. I know. I mean, it can be a hard pill to swallow. We signed up for all this. But, it makes sense. We are all one. I mean, yeah, to me, nothing contradicts. How we treat others is how we treat ourselves, like it just, even in yogic traditions, some of the gurus talk about, I can't think of the story, but yeah. So when I'm feeling compassion for that guy in the wheelchair, I'm having compassion for myself. So that story's called The Egg, and you can just search egg story and you'll find it. It's very popular. So I want to go back to the Way of the Heart, and I love how this is unfolding. How are y'all enjoying this teaching? Great. I love it. I love that you love it. Because really, just like all the stuff I teach, it lights me up. I mean, and from an astrological point of view, which y'all know I love astrology, my North Node is in Scorpio. So I'm living in my North Node when I get to do this. and I get to own that I created this. Where I'm finding my challenge lies in all of the success that I'm creating. There's a disconnect of, did I really do this? Like, well, surely somebody else did this, like, but I did it. I'm doing this, as far as, creating this experience that I'm getting to be with you in this way and teach this material that is just my passion. Nobody else did this but me, but there's a perception there that it's something outside of my control, or that I didn't do it somehow, or it's up to something else. So that's a journey. I'm glad, Amy. I'm really glad. Got some Scorpios in the house. Julie, Leo. Yeah, so the North Node is your life purpose. And mine is in the second house, which is a house of self-worth and also like money and finances. And so it's, Scorpio, North Node, transformation, helping others transform. And it, has to do with my own self-worth. So I'm living my purpose right now. So thank you. And one thing I want to say about these teachings is that it says it in here, and Abraham Hicks says this too. We're all channeling all the time. We're always channeling. And so, I'm channeling, and even everything that's come through in this session is me channeling, and we all are doing that. Oh, that's great, Heather. Thank you for sharing, and you're welcome. Yeah, for the experience. And Convos with God talks about that, because in there it says, we chose to be here, and he's like, I chose this? Why did I freaking choose? I didn't choose this. And then God was like, you love it. You love the drama. You love it. And you'll choose it until you don't want to choose it anymore. I can relate. Ooh, nice, Julie. So, I'm going to read the last paragraph I read again. Oh, Andrea, yes, you have a very scorpionic chart. Your chart's amazing. I'll have to check that out, Wendy. I don't know him. So, the way of the heart. No longer will you find the need to defend perceptions you had identified with an error. So do you see there's some defending of perceptions? When anyone's like, well, what about this or that? That's a defending of a perception. So no longer will you find the need to defend perceptions you had identified with an error, and you will indeed know when you have come to that state of awakening. For you will be able to look upon all created things that you've ever experienced, all reactions you've ever held within the mind, all perceptions, all judgments, all desires that you've ever held for anyone or anything, and as they arise in your mind, they will not disturb your peace, and you will smile. And you will see that within your consciousness has arisen all saintlyhood and all devilishness, and you have been both saint and sinner, and your happiness and your unhappiness has been merely an effect of where you would choose to place your attention. So like me, like witnessing this guy in the wheelchair, that's what happened. I saw all these judgments, and they arose in my mind, and they did not disturb my peace. In fact, what I actually did, I started feeling so much love for this being, and I channeled Reiki to him. I just felt like this is some very powerful connection here in this moment. And we didn't even speak. We did smile at each other, and when they left, they waved goodbye. But, the soul speaks beyond words. Indeed, beloved friends, I come forth to meet you wherever you are because I have chosen to use the infinite power of consciousness given me of the Father, as equally as it is given unto you, to discover how deep delight can be when the mind is focused only on seeing from and seeing only the mind of Christ. I have therefore called to myself all multitude of experiences, even when I walked upon your beloved earth as a man, in order to challenge myself, in order to test myself, in order to condition myself to rise above, to transcend all possible experiences that could distract me from the remembrance of who I am. So now, the Joshua ben Joseph is talking about his experience as Jesus and saying the reason he chose to become Jesus and have that experience was to challenge himself to have these experiences, to overcome them. You could say, by the way, that my crucifixion was simply the climax of my own direct choice to be challenged by the events of space and time, so that I could cultivate within myself the ability to see from and to see only the perfect purity of the mind of Christ. The point that I'm seeking to make with you is that in each and every moment, what you're experiencing in the realm of your emotions and mind and the effects, to a latter degree within the body, are there because you, from your infinite freedom, have simply selected that experience, that energy, to focus your attention on so that you can see what the effects are. The insanity, you see, does not come from having chosen to see something other than the mind of Christ. The insanity which you experience as your pain and as your suffering and your seeking and your dramas comes only from your mistaken choice to become identified with what arises in the field of your awareness. You therefore lose the sight of innocence. For indeed, all events are perfectly neutral, and you are free to see them any way you want. When a child is born, and many of you who are mothers know this, you can experience a depth of joy that is unspeakable. Likewise, you can also experience fear and contraction at the thought of having to be responsible for a child. When a loved one dies and you experience grief and suffering, rest assured it is because you've chosen to contract your attention so that all you can see is the loss of an animated body, and therefore convince yourself that you have become separated from the loved one. I speak from experience when I share with you that separation is an illusion. And when death occurs in your plane in that very moment, you still have the power to choose to recognize that something has changed and to shift your attention to a different faculty that the body could never possibly contain, in which you perceive and hear and communicate with that spark of divine light, the soul, that seems to have given up the idea of trying to keep a physical form animated. It is therefore imperative, and in fact, it is the very first step on what we are going to begin to call the way of the heart. The first step in awakening is to allow into the mind the thought, the axiom, the truth, that nothing which you are experiencing is caused by anything outside of you. You experience only the effects of your own choice. Nothing that which you are experiencing is caused by anything outside of you. You experience only the effects of your own choice. So that was a lot there. And we will stop the reading there for now. I'm going to take a photo so I remember where we are next time. Yeah, I mean, even what I just read through, we could probably spend an hour on each sentence or paragraph. But it's basically the reconditioning of yourself to release judgment on the world you see and release judgment on what's happening in the world. And also, of course, releasing judgment on how you how you are, how you show up or don't show up, or that you may react, or all of that. So releasing that judgment as well. Heather, I love and thank you for all who did speak up. If you do have a physical disability or any kind of disability today, it's, for me, it's interesting that I brought that example in, and that there's many of you that have that experience or a similar experience. And yeah, I appreciate hearing that you don't want pity. And I, like I said, I noticed that for a minute, but then see, to me, it's disrespectful. It's more respectful for me with that person that I witnessed in the wheelchair. Compassion is not pity. Compassion is like hallowedness or sacredness, or acknowledging the divinity of that being, and also without judgment that I know anything about their experience. So, yeah. It's like allowing people to have their experience without thinking I know anything about what it is or what it might be or why they may have chosen that. And, if we go back to this idea that we are all one, that we are all, one energy, even if we go back to, oh, well, I incarnate, like I've been that person, I've had that person's lifetime. Every person I see, I have incarnated as, and I have been, and so I am them. Then it's like a self-respect in a way. Hi, Bella. So it's a book called The Way of Mastery. It's divided into 3 parts. And so part 1 is The Way of the Heart, and that's what I'm reading from. And it also was an audio, like a channeled teaching. So if anybody wants either, so there's a website or whatever, I can share it with you. Oh, Patricia, awesome. I don't know if you heard me say I'm clean and sober. And a couple others have mentioned that as well. So, yeah, I mean, for me, it's the 12-step community. It can be very dogmatic in there. So, yeah. And, there's judgment everywhere. Yeah, great. Thank you all for joining. This will be a long series. We've just touched into it, and it's a co-creation. Thank you all for joining and co-creating this with me. And I think, well, at least for now, I want to bring this at the same time every week. So, yeah, so stay tuned. Bashar, he's a teacher, and he says, follow your passion, follow your highest excitement, And yeah, this teaching right now, and it's one of those. So thank you. Awesome, Heather, Misty, Brooke. So don't forget to follow me. Hi, Shiloh, Jessica. Hi, Osaya. Ooh, awesome. That sounds great. Thank you for that. I feel like it's so helpful for those very challenging circumstances around, war and famine and, tragedies and abuse and disability. Like, yeah, applying these concepts to those challenging examples. So, yeah, that sounds great. Awesome. That's great, Patricia. There's many paths to sobriety, however, and whatever those are. So that's great. I will see you all 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. And I'm liking that time for me. So I think I've set up a couple lives, but anyway, don't forget to follow me, give a donation if you'd like. Follow me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. If you did miss some of this, you can check the replay on my YouTube in a day or two. And yeah, I'm excited for what will be channeled through me and through this as we continue. I'm also moving to another town in Mexico. And I'm so excited to be back there. I went there at Christmas, if y'all know me and follow. So I'm so excited. I've got an amazing place. And I even have it's called a mirador in Mexico. It's a little rooftop thing. I don't know if I can do lives up there. I know I'll be able to walk up there and show you. But it'd be cool if I can do my lives up there. So we'll see. But I'll see y'all tomorrow. So thank you all. Much love. Namaste.